Today in the episode, Lionel Messi has finally delivered Inter Miami their first MLS Cup. Barcelona are lining up a crazy move. It looks like the Catalans are about to sign a superstar striker. Manchester City have their eyes on Cesc Fabregas' coaching rise. The Spaniard is already being tipped as Pep Guardiola's future replacement. Liverpool once again went big and forgot to cover themselves at the back. Arne Slot is under serious pressure after yesterday's collapse, with the media calling for his head. And Mohamed Salah finally snapped. What exactly did the Egyptian say, and what does it mean for his future? We'll talk about all that and plenty more today, friends. This is Football Frenzy, your daily dose of football and a hot top 10 of the biggest stories right now. Drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss tomorrow's episode. And if you're watching this over a meal, enjoy your food and enjoy the show. Real Madrid are once again ready to open the vault for a blockbuster signing. This time, we might be talking about a fee in the region of 150 million euros. According to multiple reports, that's how much it may take to convince PSG to let go of João Neves, one of the most promising central midfielders in Europe, a player Paris already see as a future leader of their team. Since Xabi Alonso arrived, Madrid again slowly rebuilding their midfield to fit his philosophy. They need a player who can do both sides of the game, break up attacks, dictate tempo, and link the lines under pressure. In other words, the hunt for a new Toni Kroos is still on. Neves fits that profile almost perfectly. He reads the game well, destroys attacks, progresses the ball into any zone, and doesn't lose quality when pressed. Real are looking for exactly this type of midfielder, especially with potential summer exits and someone from the old guard likely moving on. PSG, of course, have plenty of reasons to say no. Inside the club, they see Neves as a long-term cornerstone, a player they can build around for years. They're not really planning to sell him, and definitely not to Madrid, who've just taken their biggest star. On top of that, the market for top central midfielders is very tight. There are only a few elite options at their peak. That's why any serious conversation has to start at a huge number, around 150 million. For Madrid, that kind of deal is a big risk. Any 150 million signing comes with insane pressure. We all remember how their most expensive signing ever didn't exactly become a club legend, but did become a great face for a fast food brand. But if the transfer happens and Neves clicks in Alonso's system, Real could lock down the heart of their midfield for years. A double pivot of Neves plus Tchouaméni already looks scary on paper. At the same time, other top clubs in Europe are watching closely. Players like this never have just one suitor. The summer window promises to be hot. The only questions are who makes the first official bid and who's really willing to meet the price PSG will put on their midfielder. Remember how Aston Villa started the season? After that incredible rise under Unai Emery, they'd gone from mid-table side to genuine problem for any opponent. Under the Spanish coach, Villa completely changed status. But at the start of this campaign, something just broke. Villa weren't just failing to win. They couldn't even score their first league goal. The drought lasted way too long, and it felt like the Birmingham fairy tale was over. It looked like Villa had reset back to their old factory settings and were about to slide into another relegation battle. But in reality, it was just a short-term blackout. Over the next 9 Premier League games, Villa won 8, dropping points only once, against Liverpool. Then came another huge test. Villa had to face what might be the strongest team in Europe right now, Arsenal. And here, Emery stayed absolutely true to himself. He had zero interest in playing Arsenal's game and made it clear from the first whistle that on his scale, pragmatism weighs way more than flashy, open football. Arsenal's chances in the first half could be counted on one hand, and none of them were truly dangerous. Villa didn't create tons of moments either, but without Gabriel and Saliba, the Gunners' defense just didn't look the same. A series of small mistakes at the back cost them. Matty Cash, as usual, turned up in exactly the right place and opened the scoring. Arteta saw the game slipping away from his script and made 2 halftime substitutions, which almost instantly paid off. Leandro Trossard scored 7 minutes after coming on. But after that, the match fell back into its earlier pattern, sterile Arsenal possession versus dangerous Aston Villa counters. And those counters were the real threat. The decisive moment came in stoppage time. You'd expect Arsenal, as favorites, to pin Villa back and go for a late winner. Instead, it was the hosts who landed the final punch. Villa scored deep into added time. Arsenal had no chance to respond, and Arteta's team suffered just their second defeat of the season. That win didn't just boost Villa's confidence, it temporarily lifted them into second place. That's how a team that couldn't score at all suddenly turned into a title contender in a couple of months. If not for that early crisis, the title race could look very different right now. Thomas Frank has serious problems at Tottenham. He was brought in as the coach who'd finally bring stability and give Spurs a clear identity. Basically, to repeat what he did at Brentford, but on a bigger stage. So far, it hasn't worked out that way. Tottenham still don't look truly stable, and it's no surprise that question marks are appearing over Frank's future. The board is already discussing the option of letting him go. The real question is whether that would make sense right now. Frank is a systems guy. He builds structures over time. He's not a classic motivator coach who walks in, screams in the locker room, and instantly flips the energy. Firing him would send a clear signal. The board still doesn't really know what style they want, or what long-term model the team is supposed to follow. And if that happens, Spurs will have gone through 6 managers in 6 years. Everyone knows that kind of pattern almost never leads to long-term success. The funny, and at the same time logical, twist is that Tottenham might try to go back to the coach who started their modern era, Mauricio Pochettino. Under Poch, Spurs became a club you could genuinely call a Premier League giant. Sure, he didn't win trophies there, but the team consistently finished near the top of the table and even reached a Champions League final. Right now, Pochettino is the head coach of the US national team and won't go anywhere before the World Cup. But he's openly said he wants to come back to Tottenham, and not just return, but finish what he started. I constantly think about coming back one day. It's the most competitive league. Of course, I'd like to return to win the Premier League and the Champions League. We were so close with Tottenham. I want to achieve that. I'm still young. I have the energy, experience, and motivation to try again in the future, Pochettino said. I'm pretty sure Spurs fans wouldn't say no to that. The team has grown since then, and so has the coach. Maybe, just maybe, their 5-year partnership will eventually be rewarded with the silverware they never got the first time around. But as Poch himself said, the Premier League is the most competitive league in the world. Winning it is a whole different level of challenge. Ryan Cherki has been hyped as a special talent ever since his first steps in Ligue 1. A lot of people said this kid would destroy defenses all over Europe. Cherki has all the traits fans love. He's a skillful winger, completely unpredictable on the ball, with insane technique and feel for the game. You could call him a French version of Neymar. When he arrived at Manchester City, Pep Guardiola immediately pointed out how unique Cherki's game is. Ryan is one of the most talented players I've ever seen in my career. Technically and individually, he's top level. His talent is truly enormous. I feel like almost every time the ball gets to him, the situation on the pitch improves, Pep said. The Catalan called Cherki one of the most gifted players he's ever worked with. And we all know the kind of players Pep has coached. That's some serious praise. Cherki is proving those words true week after week. In this round, City faced Sunderland, the same Sunderland who recently took points off Arsenal. On paper, a tricky match. On the field, Cherki turned it into a show. He was a magician on the ball. If not for one certain Scandinavian's wasteful finishing, Cherki could have ended the match with an absolutely ridiculous number of goal contributions. Even so, he still picked up 2 assists, one of them a Rabona. Cherki is a madman in the best possible way, and watching him feels almost unfairly entertaining. Thanks in large part to his performance, Manchester City easily beat Sunderland and moved up to second place. Now the gap between City and Arsenal is down to just 2 points. The Gunners' title no longer looks anywhere near as inevitable as it did a month ago. At the moment, there are 4 real title contenders in England: Arsenal, Manchester City, Aston Villa, and Chelsea, who are all in strong form. Once again, the Premier League is making every other league look a little bit boring. It feels like almost any attacking player at Barcelona could leave the club this summer. Robert Lewandowski's contract is running down. It's unclear if the board will want to extend it. Lamine Yamal might be sold to stabilize the finances. And then there's Rafinha. According to some reports, the Brazilian situation is especially interesting. After his last renewal, a strange clause supposedly appeared in his contract. The wording is said to be something like, the player has the right to independently decide on his transfer, and the club will not obstruct it if a fair compensation is received. If that's true, handing a player as valuable as Rafinha that much control is risky. But Barca's board has made questionable decisions before, so it's not impossible to believe. What counts as fair compensation? The source doesn't specify, but in recent rumors around Rafinha, one number keeps popping up: 150 million euros. Considering his age and market value, that would probably be enough for Barcelona to accept a sale. So, who can realistically put that kind of money on the table? There are plenty of theoretical suitors, but the most concrete links come from Saudi Arabia. Clubs there have been tracking Rafinha for a while and even held talks with Barca last summer. But the player insisted on staying at Camp Nou. For now, he's still happy in Barcelona, but things can change fast under external pressure, especially negative pressure. And at Barca, there has been more than enough of that in recent years. Who knows what Rafinha will be thinking when this season ends? If the Brazilian does leave, logic says Barcelona should keep Rashford, but that's also complicated. The board is rightly wondering, do they really need a player on 16 million a year in the middle of a financial crisis? With that in mind, a Rashford exit might actually be more realistic than a Rafinha sale. But as we know, Manchester United don't really want him back, at least as long as Ruben Amorim is head coach. Maybe United will change managers soon, but right now, Rashford is not a key part of his plans. That means if Barca don't trigger the buy clause, another move will follow. His bright spell in Catalonia has boosted his market massively. Alongside PSG, who we've mentioned before, there are now rumors about English clubs, first and foremost Tottenham, where Thomas Frank reportedly sees Rashford as a great attacking addition. And then, there are wilder options. Some reports even throw Chelsea and Arsenal into the mix. So Rashford will not be left without a high-level club. But if you ask the player himself, he'd prefer to stay exactly where he is right now, in Barcelona. Cesc Fabregas has very quickly become one of the most interesting young coaches in Europe. His work at Como started as a bold experiment. A rookie coach with a big name, but no big coaching CV, taking over a club in a tough spot. That gamble has paid off. Como didn't just earn promotion. They stayed up and turned into one of the most eye-catching and consistent teams of the season. Fabregas has built a recognizable style based on possession, understanding of space, and coordinated work off the ball. None of this is a coincidence. You can clearly see the influence of Arsène Wenger, Pep Guardiola, and other managers he played under. Como try to control tempo, stick to their principles even against stronger opponents, and play a brand of football that you recognize instantly. And it's not just pretty theory. The team has improved in the details: positioning, build-up, pressing, and reactions after losing the ball. This rapid progress has naturally attracted attention from clubs at all levels. But Fabregas isn't a coach who jumps at the first big paycheck. He said openly that he'll only consider a new job if it feels like a logical continuation of his football ideas. And the most obvious fit for him is Manchester City, a club that sooner or later will need a successor to Pep Guardiola. For City, Cesc looks like a very natural candidate. He understands the principles the team is built on, shares the core ideas, and knows how to adapt them. He also knows the Premier League inside out from his playing days. He's lived that pressure and rhythm. That experience gives him extra credibility if conversations about replacing Guardiola ever become serious. At the same time, Como is still a comfortable place for him. He has trust, freedom, and strong support. The fans see him as the man who gave the club back its ambition. Fabregas won't leave just because of rumors. He wants to build something lasting. But football is unpredictable, and if Manchester City come calling at the right moment, that door will be very hard to ignore. Yesterday, we had two games going on almost at the same time, and it was nearly impossible to follow both. Too many events, too much chaos. Let's start with Barcelona's trip to Betis. On paper, a very tricky opponent. Betis have been in great form in the league and in Europe. They recently destroyed one of their city rivals 4-1, the same team that smashed Barça by the same scoreline. and Betis have one of the most informed players in the world right now. You probably don't even need me to say the name. It was Antony who opened the scoring. Barca's defense lost focus early on again, and a player of his quality made them pay. Conceding first is nothing new for Barcelona this season. What usually follows is chaos, and that's exactly what we got. Ferran Torres equalized, then scored again a couple of minutes later. Rooney Bargi blasted in a trademark rocket, and before halftime, Ferran completed his hat trick. It was 1-4 at the break, with 45 minutes still to play. In the second half, Barcelona slowed things down. Midi Flick asked his players not to go full throttle at 4-1 and to think ahead to the next Champions League match. The focus definitely dropped. Betis took advantage and scored twice. Barca added one more themselves, and it finished 3-5. A wild game, but one that kept the Catalans on top of the table. Special mention for Hansi Flick's tactics. He used Bargi on the right and moved Lamine Yamal into the middle as a number 10, and it worked. Yamal got more freedom to roam into different zones, slipped away from pressure, and constantly dragged defenders out of position. He wasn't always on the ball, but he did a lot to help his teammates create chances. That number 10 role opened up new possibilities for him, and once again sparked comparisons with Lionel Messi, who also started out wide before becoming Barca's central playmaker. Yamal seems to be following a similar path, just at fast-forward speed. Now let's move to Leeds versus Liverpool. You can pretty much skip the first half. Nothing special. The second half, though, turned into a full-blown roller coaster. Diogo Jota scored twice, and it looked like Arne Slot had finally accepted that the most reliable striker in the squad is the one who's in form. Everything looked perfect. 2-goal lead against one of the league's outsiders. What could possibly go wrong? Then came Ibrahima Konaté's nightmare. Within a few minutes, he gave away a penalty and then scored an own goal after a deflection. Liverpool lost control again, even though Dominic Szoboszlai quickly restored their lead. But this Liverpool side struggles to close out chaotic games. The team panics, loses structure, and invites pressure. The knockout punch came in the 96th minute. Leeds scored their third, made it 3-3, and seconds later, the final whistle blew. Liverpool dropped points yet again, and the noise around Arne Slot grew even louder. Several English outlets went with headlines that essentially read, "Slot out, new coach incoming." We know Liverpool's shortlist is long, but the most intriguing name on it is Zinedine Zidane. So it's entirely possible that by the time you're watching this, there may already be big news from Anfield. Right now, though, at the moment of recording, Arne Slot is still the Liverpool manager. Mohamed Salah may finally complete his move to Saudi Arabia in the near future. This story has been going on for more than a year, and last season, it became a full-blown transfer saga. Back then, the Egyptian had a massive offer from Saudi clubs and spent most of the season dropping hints that he might accept it. But many believe it wasn't just a sudden urge to try a new league. It was also leverage. Salah used interest from the Middle East as a tool in negotiations with Liverpool. The club didn't want to give a long-term deal to a player of his age. Salah, on the other hand, had no intention of signing a one-year extension and was prepared to leave on a free. Liverpool couldn't afford to lose their most productive player of recent years without a transfer fee. So in the end, they had to bend their own policy and give him a 3-year contract. This season, though, everything has gone very differently. Salah is nowhere near the form fans are used to. He's even lost his spot in the starting 11. And in the last 3 games, Slot has left him on the bench from start to finish. That immediately created tension between coach and player, and now it's spilled out into the open. After the game against Leeds, Salah gave a very sharp interview that shocked the English media. He criticized the board, the head coach, and his own lack of minutes. "I just couldn't believe I sat on the bench for all 90 minutes. That's the 3rd time already. I'm very disappointed. I've done so much for this club over the years, and now it feels like the club just threw me under the bus. I used to have a good relationship with Slot. Now, there is simply no relationship at all," the forward said. It's hard to come back from statements like that. It really looks like Salah's time at Anfield is coming to an end. And not in the way anyone imagined. After that, a move to Saudi Arabia feels almost inevitable. Clubs in the region don't care too much about his current stats. His name will sell far more than any numbers. Salah remains one of the most popular players on the planet, especially in the Arab world. and he'd be a perfect face of the Saudi League heading into the 2034 World Cup. The league's bosses are ready to pounce, offering Salah a massive salary and Liverpool a big transfer fee. All that's left now is to wait for the official announcement. Lionel Messi has now lifted his 4th trophy with Inter Miami, and if you remember where the club was when he arrived, the contrast is crazy. Miami were near the bottom of the Eastern Conference, one of the weakest teams in MLS. There's no relegation in the league, but by level of play, they look like a side with no stability and no clear future. Messi's arrival changed everything almost instantly. Inter won the first trophy in club history just a few weeks after his debut. Sure, it wasn't the most prestigious competition, but for a team that had been stuck at the bottom for years, it felt like a reset. The team jumped forward in a matter of weeks, and the following season, they finished first in the conference and added another trophy. They crashed out early in the playoffs, losing to Atlanta, but you could tell the project finally had direction. And now, in this latest campaign, Inter had a chance to finish the storyline properly and give their fans the ultimate proof of progress, the MLS Cup. They navigated the playoff bracket confidently and reached the final, where Vancouver were waiting. A strong, well-organized, and most importantly, very awkward opponent. The two sides had already met twice this season, and Vancouver had destroyed Miami 5-1 on aggregate. So it was perfectly reasonable to doubt even the legendary trio of Messi, Busquets, and Alba. But the final started perfectly for Miami. In the 9th minute, Vancouver defender Edier Ocampo turned the ball into his own net. Inter were ahead, but they didn't have full control. Vancouver kept pumping balls forward and pressing high. You could feel a mistake coming, and it did. Midway through the second half, the Canadians equalized. After that, time seemed to slow down for Miami fans. The tension grew with every attack. David Beckham was clearly nervous, his wife trying to calm him down in the stands, but class eventually told. The Messi-DePaul connection once again made the difference. Leo slipped a perfect pass into space, and Miami went 2-1 up with around 20 minutes to play. Still, Vancouver didn't quit. They pushed harder, threw numbers forward, and created constant pressure. Every attack felt dangerous. The decisive moment came in stoppage time. Messi picked up the ball, scanned the field, and with one pass sent Allende through on goal. He finished. 3-1, game over. Only then did it become clear that this final wasn't slipping away from Inter Miami. The final whistle confirmed the 4th trophy of the Messi era. For Leo himself, it was the 48th trophy of his career. Judging by the level he showed again in this final, hitting 50 doesn't look impossible at all. His career is already legendary, but it really feels like Messi still hasn't said his last word. We don't talk about Serie A clubs that often. The league isn't at its peak right now, and many of its teams are going through transitions. But that doesn't mean nothing interesting is happening there. It's just that our top 10 format doesn't always leave room for Italy. This season, though, Serie A is not just competitive. It's brutal. 4 teams are in the title race, both Milan clubs, Napoli under Antonio Conte, and Roma under Gianpiero Gasperini. Every round feels like a new plot twist. The league's top scorer right now is Lautaro Martinez. You can describe him with that classic football phrase, "Now, that's a striker." He rarely shoots from distance. He plays like a pure center forward, but he almost never misses the big chances. This is no longer the Lautaro who used to be mocked for misses with the national team. This is the leader of both Inter and Argentina. Inter's board know exactly what they have. Last year, they gave him a new 5-year deal with a huge salary by Serie A standards. But that doesn't automatically mean he's in Milan forever. Barcelona are still watching him closely as they consider life after Lewandowski. Journalist Rudy Galletti reports that sporting director Deco will personally oversee talks with the player and with Inter. Given the sales Barca are almost certain to make, a big transfer fee doesn't automatically kill the deal. Barcelona aren't in a position to dictate terms to other giants, and it's unclear when they will be. But signing a striker of Lautaro's level would instantly raise the ceiling of Flick's team. The most interesting part is that Barca can actually afford him, again, if they complete a few major sales. Lewandowski will leave eventually, and his salary is enormous for a player at this stage of his career. Lautaro, on the other hand, fits Flick's model perfectly: smart movement, pressing, link-up play, and clinical finishing. And honestly, it's been tempting for years to see him outside of Inter, just to understand how high his ceiling really is. So why not Barcelona? That's all for today. Thanks a lot for watching, for your likes, your comments, and for subscribing to the channel. It really helps Football Frenzy grow. This was your daily dose of football. Peace to your home, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next episode.